성공을 향해 가는 채널.
But then they started doing like these little 1% changes, these small improvements that nobody else was really thinking about.
미국 최고의 자기계발 전문가인 제임스 클리어는 어떻게 해야 성공할 수 있는지에 대한 구체적인 방법을 제시해 줍니다. 성공한 사람들은 이 방법에 100% 공감합니다. 어떤 내용인지 알아봅시다.
Why 1% better every day, and how does a habit do that?
Sure. So first of all, I think there's no reason that you can't be really ambitious, right? Like I consider myself to be a very ambitious person. I think it's just that you're oscillating or switching between these two modes. You know, like when you're in planning mode, when you're in strategy mode, sure, you can be very ambitious and be very aggressive and, stretching yourself and reaching. But when it comes time to take action and execute, you have to scale it down to something that you can achieve that day. You know, like in one sense, the biggest unit of time you could ever do something is about a single day, because then you got to go to sleep, and then you have to wake up again and do it the next day. So unless you're playing, at some point there's a limit. You can only stay up for 48 hours or 72 hours, and then you break. So that's the largest possible unit that you could ever do a single thing in. And I think more realistically, most of the time, the truth is, you got about an hour, maybe you got 2 hours to work on this, and then you got to go move on to something else. So we don't have big chunks of time available to us. We need to scale things down into pieces that we can actually work on and execute. So the way that I think about it is, when making plans, think big. When making progress, think small. And getting 1% better each day is a way to encourage that. The story that I like to tell, and this is something that I kind of kick Atomic Habits off with, is the story of the British cycling team. And, for many years, British cycling was very mediocre. They had never won a Tour de France, which is the premier race in cycling. They had won a single gold medal over like a 100-year span. And they brought this new performance coach in named Dave Brailsford. And he had this concept that he called the aggregation of marginal gains. The aggregation of marginal gains. And the way that he described it was the 1% improvement in nearly everything that we do related to cycling. So they started looking at a bunch of things you would expect a cycling team to focus on, but then they started doing like these little 1% changes, these small improvements that nobody else was really thinking about. Like they hired a surgeon to come in and teach the riders how to wash their hands to reduce the risk of catching a cold or getting the flu. They have this big trailer, like a semi-trailer that carries a lot of bikes in it to major events, and they painted the inside of that truck trailer white so that they could spot little bits of dirt and dust that might get in the gears and degrade the performance of the bikes. They have two different types of fabrics. They've got like indoor racing suits and outdoor racing suits, and they tested those fabrics in a wind tunnel, and they found out that the indoor fabric was lighter and more aerodynamic, so they asked all of their riders to wear that fabric. They even had all their different riders test, like a bunch of, like maybe a dozen different types of pillows, and then they see which one led to the best night's sleep for each person. And then once they figured that out, they brought that on the road with them to hotels for the Tour de France and so on. Wow. And Brailsford said something like, if we can actually do this, right, if we can actually make all these 1% improvements related to cycling, then I think we can win a Tour de France within 5 years. He ended up being wrong. They won the Tour de France in 3 years, and then they repeated again the fourth year with a different rider. And then after a 1-year break, they won 3 more in a row. So after having never won for like 110 years, they win 5 of the next 6.
여기서 우리는 무엇을 깨달아야 할까요? 나에게 필요한 것을 매일 조금씩 개선해야 하나? 그렇게 봐도 맞을 수 있지만 너무 직관적으로 바라본 시선입니다. 이 이야기로 얻어가야 할 게 무엇인지 계속 보시죠.
And I like to use that story as an introduction to this idea of getting a little bit better, making these 1% improvements, for a couple reasons. The first is it shows you that excellence, a lot of the time, maybe we can even say most of the time, is not actually about radical change. It's about a commitment to accruing small improvements day in and day out. Secondly, and I think this is also crucial, it encourages you to focus on trajectory rather than position. What getting 1% better each day encourages is to focus on your trajectory instead. Because if you're on a good trajectory, all you need is time, right? If you have good habits, time becomes your ally. You just need to let time work for you. But if you have bad habits, time becomes your enemy. And every day that clicks by, you kind of dig the hole a little bit deeper. And so it's very much at the core, it's about encouraging you to focus on trajectory rather than position.
무엇을 하든지 바로 성공할 수 있는 건 없습니다. 굳이 있다면 로또뿐이겠죠? 내가 원하는 성공을 하고 싶다면 나에게 있는 나쁜 습관을 하나씩 고쳐보세요. 그러한 과정들이 쌓이면 시간은 당신에게 큰 기회를 줄 겁니다.